the generation that is normally referred to as the Gen Zs. The Gen Zs is the generation, I think, that was born between 1997 and 2012. So let's talk about what I think that generation should be doing as far as money is concerned. If you look at that generation, it comprises of young people who are entering the workforce, and some of them may still be studying and may be in university or in tertiary institutions. So the tips or the financial tips that I would give to that particular generation is number one, financial education. You need to take advantage of financial literacy resources to understand budgeting, saving, and investing. This is the time to educate yourself so that you equip yourself on those three topics: budgeting, saving, and investing. Listen to as many speakers as possible on financial education and get as much knowledge as possible. I think there's so many resources, there. Number two, use credit wisely. Most of these young people have not been trained on how to use credit. And so to the extent to which you will have opportunities to borrow from financial institutions, use credit cards, use loans responsibly. And it's your time to establish a good credit history. So don't get into the habit of borrowing money and not paying. If you get a credit card, pay off the balance in full every month to avoid interest charges. Then, one of the wisdoms, one of the wisest things that I got from some old men was that you need to think about retirement from the first time you get a job. So what I would want to say to your John Zets is that even when you are getting a job, start saving early. The earlier you start, the better. So even from the first time you get a regular income, begin saving. It could be opening a tax-free saving account. The other thing is network and seek mentors, mentors. So you need to be mentored um, so connect with financial mentors from a previous generation. Learn from experienced people so that you do not repeat the money management mistakes that they have made. Because at the end of the day, I think generations do not work, do not learn from each other. In my money management journey, I have made it a point to learn from the mistakes that older people who have gone before me have made. So one of the things that I'm saying on this show is that each generation can learn valuable lessons from the financial mistakes of the previous generation. Let's move on to the next generation, because we're talking about money management as we age. So the second generation that I would want to address are what are normally called the millenniums. These are people probably who are currently between 28 and 43 years of age. So millenniums are those people that are building careers, they are starting families, they are purchasing homes, and they are beginning to establish a solid financial financial foundation. So what are some of the tips that I would give? Number one, build an emergency fund. Look, I talk to so many people and I ask them the question, do you have an emergency fund? Guess what? They don't have an emergency fund. So when we talk about an emergency fund, we're talking about building a fund that is worth 3 to 6 months of your living expenses so that you can cover unexpected costs. Secondly, invest early. So start investing as soon as possible. When you are a millennium, I think you should begin to have an investment portfolio so that you can benefit from compound interest. I'm sure you've heard the wisdom that says it's not about timing the markets, it's about time in the market. So you need to take advantage of compound interest. Number three, create a budget to track your spending and saving goals. There are so many apps that banks are coming up with to help you on your saving journey. Number four, work with a financial advisor. So if you are a millennium, it's very important that you collaborate with a financial advisor so that you can begin to have a solid financial plan. Many people do not operate with a financial plan. I advise millennium to have a financial independence plan where they clearly articulate their financial goals and they begin to embark on achieving those financial goals. Some of the mistakes that millennium make is delaying investing. So remember, we spoke about procrastinating. Many people procrastinate, and there are some millenniums that I see who are procrastinating, probably because of significant living expenses that they have acquired. My advice is that if you're a millennium, don't go big, don't acquire a big property. Um, because you've got access to credit, you get a big home, a big car. Big cars and big homes are things that are acquired debt-free by people who have made money. If you need a car and you're a millennium, buy a small car, minimize your expenses, begin to build a retirement portfolio, because that's very, very important. Don't make debt commitments. Then let's move on to the third generation, and this is Generation X. So Generation X refers to people that were born between 1965 and 1980. So currently that generation probably would be in their 40s and in their 50s. So if you look at your Gen X, these are the people that are typically in their peak earning years, but they are facing significant expenses because they are having to finance the education of their children. And they are also caring for their aging parents. So if we were to look at it within a South African context, these are the people that um, suffering from black tax, right? So what are my financial tips to that particular generation? Number one, maximize your retirement contribution. When you started off your career, you were probably saving 10% of your monthly expenses. Now I would want you to max your retirement contribution. Increase that retirement contribution to probably 30% of your monthly income so that you can take full advantage of the markets. Probably then your financial status is stable. Secondly, in that generation, you need to prioritize paying off high interest debt. So that's the time that I would want you to be debt free. If you have accumulated home loan debt, motor vehicle finance debt, this is the time that you need to be paying off that debt. You do not want to go into your retirement years with a lot of debt, right? And then thirdly, you need to create a fund for your children. Because what I find most of the time in that generation is that you are having to finance the education of your children. And sometimes the people in that generation may actually compromise on the education of their children. So if you have children, ensure that you are saving efficiently for their education. So you may want to consider creating an education fund for your children so that they can finance their way through their university years. You need to update your risk cover. So make sure that your life insurance is up to date because that's very, very important. It will help you to take care of your family should anything unforeseen happen. What I find with this generation is that they make, so many mistakes. Mistake number one is that they are highly indebted. This is the generation that is highly indebted. And because they are highly indebted, they they tend to compromise on their retirement savings because of the financial pressures that they are having to contend with at that phase of their lives. So if you're a Gen X, avoid that mistake by balancing your debt repayment with consistent retirement contribution. By that time, you should have built some consistency in your saving. The last generation that I would want to talk to are your baby boomers. So obviously your baby boomers are the people that are entering retirement. So these were people that were born between 1946 and 1964. So these are the people that are left with maybe 2 or 3 years to go into retirement. Some of them are already in retirement. So the focus of the baby boomer generation is to preserve wealth, is to ensure that you've got a steady income stream. And if you look at the particular needs of that generation, it's got to do with medical expenses. Because remember, as you age, you your health care bills start piling up. So one of the tips that I would give to that generation concerns healthcare planning, because inevitably, as you go into that particular phase of your life, medical expenses are going to go up. So what you need to do is to explore long-term healthcare options, ensure that you've got a comprehensive medical aid plan. That should be a priority. Secondly, you need to review your retirement plans. So just ensure that your retirement savings are sufficient to cover your expected long lifespan. Remember what we spoke about, the longevity imperative. We would want you to age well. So before you go into retirement, you need to consult a financial advisor so that you can adjust your investment strategy if that is needed. And then thirdly, this is the time that you need to be doing comprehensive estate planning because you can die at any time. So you need to update your will. You need to do a full estate plan calculation to ensure that you are aware of all the costs and all the tax implications, but also to ensure that you efficiently transfer wealth to those that will come, after you. Tafadwa, we've been talking about the fact that a good man or a good woman will leave an inheritance to their children's children. When you are entering those retirement years, you need to be thinking about your children's children. And then number four, you need to absolutely cut on any unnecessary expenses. So if you're a baby boomer, you need to review your expenses, eliminate unnecessary expenses such as debit orders, such as subscriptions, because the elimination of those unnecessary expenses will actually stretch your retirement savings further. Some of the common mistakes that baby boomers make is that obviously they have underestimated their retirement needs, which leads to inadequate savings. And they've underestimated their healthcare costs. I think one of the things that is happening is that you cannot retire, you cannot rely on your children to take care of you, which is something that has happened in generations that have gone past. What we are saying here is that adjust the way you manage money as you age. Just make sure that you review your financial situation and align it with the needs that you have at every phase of your life. Typically, what happens, Tafadzwa, is that if you are very young and you are working for the very first time, you can take risks. So what I would want with young people that are entering, these people that we've spoken about, your Gen Zs, if you are entering the workplace, the workforce at the moment, take as much investment risk as possible. This is the time to risk it. I normally get people who say, I will wait until I'm older to start a business. No, 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 no. You can start a business soon after leaving school. There is nothing that stops you from doing so. So, what I would want with people that are young is for you to take as much financial risk as possible, learn about derivatives, learn about retiring early, explore financially. You know, you can make mistakes as a young person as long as you're making what I call innovative mistakes, as long as you suffer from innovative failure, I will forgive you for doing that. Um, Read as many books as possible if you're a young person. um, and start investing early, because this journey of financial independence benefits the person who does not procrastinate, who does not delay, but who goes for it. So that's my advice to young people. Then, if to the middle-aged people who are starting families, make sure you start your family while least you have achieved some kind of financial independence, so that you do not start on um, a situation where you finance your lifestyle with debt. Some of you probably who are middle aged, you're planning weddings. Don't finance those weddings. Don't buy house. Don't buy cars financed with debt. It will not help you and it will not end well. So managing debt becomes a huge imperative for your middle-aged people. And then as you go on, it's very important to invest in the next generation. Part of what we feel strongly about is that you need to leave something for the next generation. So as you age into your 60s, 70s, the focus really should be leaving wealth to your next generation and making sure that you do not unnecessarily scatter that wealth. So I can go on and go on, Tafazo, but our time is up. Probably we should start, thinking